Okay, well, now we're going from building to designing yachts, and our next guest carries one of the most celebrated names in yacht design. From his father, John's revolutionary spirit, to today's award-winning studio, Bannenberg and Rowell, Dickie Bannenberg continues the legacy of bold creativity and a few very memorable stories along the way. So if you would like to, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Dickie Bannenberg. It's all yours. Lovely to see you, Dickie.
You. Morning, everyone. I'm Dickie Bannenberg. Thanks very much for coming to listen, well, not just to me, but to everyone here at this summit. The guys at SST asked me to talk about the two Bannenberg eras, which sounds a bit geological in a way, or even a bit dinosaur-like, I hope not. So just allow me for 20 seconds to take you back to 1968 or thereabouts. On your very beautiful southern coast. So that was Carotoprak in about 1968. I have a feeling it probably doesn't look like that today. That was my father at one stage, art directing, of course, and me waving a Turkish flag, almost as if we were preparing for SST 25. Let me show you. We talked about, the SST guys talked about unusual requests as a sort of subheading to what I'm talking about. So an unusual request is what started my father off in yacht design. He was working at that stage in the early 1960s in Bond Street in Mayfair in London, with working in partnership with a leading and very famous antique dealer called John Partridge. One day, a client of Partridge came in, an American client, with the designs for his sailboat. He was commissioning a sailboat at Camper Nicholson's, and unwisely, as it turned out, asked my father what he thought of those designs. And my father, paraphrasing, said, "Well, I think they're rubbish." And the client said, "Well, if you're so smart, see what you can do." And with that, my father's career in yacht design was launched. There he is, by the way, top right-hand corner. Whilst the client on the left is in oilskins and a bobble hat, my father thought blazer and white trousers was the way to helm. But lest anyone think that the sort of entry to yacht design was straightforward, it really wasn't. The top quote was from Peter Nicholson. We thought of him rather scornfully as an interior designer. The second quote is from a journalist who was writing about the project at the time. You don't need me to read it out particularly, but it just shows you the sort of landscape, if you like, of yacht design at that stage, where it was inherently a very traditional and rather hidebound industry. And in swept my father, attracting these kind of comments. Assertive Australian, wearing his sharp London clothes. Many thought him a wretched person. Let me just let me set the scene in London at this time. Prepare for some groovy London, everyone.
When I got here, I arrived broke and unknown, and it was hopeless. And then in '54, we set up this business, largely through sort of colossal confidence and ignorance. It succeeded.
John Bannenberg designs interiors for expensive English homes, for luxury yachts owned by Greek shipping millionaires, and at the moment...
Hasn't it changed, and isn't Sydney different, and aren't the buildings different? And they weren't at all. All they'd done is pull down a lot of ugly old buildings and put ugly village explainer and fight my way. Why should I? I want to work like hell out there. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to explain why you're doing your job. I don't give a damn. I'm not going to explain why. I just want to work.
That's called having an assertive father. So you want unusual requests. It wasn't long before the wretched Australian was really burning a meteor-like path through the world of yacht design. So one of his very first projects here was, or one of an early project at least, was a large 130-meter yacht for a Saudi client. And he wanted an unusual request. Well, how about top of this section through anti-aircraft defense systems in the funnel, presumably not clashing with the SATCOM array. Over on the right-hand side, very early deployment and need to incorporate Cadillac, Jeep, and Rolls-Royce. And bearing in mind, this was the early 70s, so it's showing you what kind of thing was going on in those days. It wasn't long before my dad was in the black book of all good dictators and despots. So here we are with Castro, and my dad used to remind me how he flew backwards and forwards from, I think it was from Madrid to Havana in a ropey old Aleutian turboprop plane, glass nose cone, lightning flashing. It never came to anything, but again, under the theme of unusual and special requests, that's got to be pretty high. I think we should move from communism to capitalism at this point. Malcolm Forbes, another example of something very different, his customized Boeing 727, for which my father did the livery. Capitalist tool, most Malcolm Forbes things were called capitalist tool. I actually have a capitalist tool tie. I've got to tell you, it's extremely hard to find a place to wear a capitalist tool tie. You've got to be careful about it now. One of the things on this, I defy you to have anything more special in terms of request than a Harley-Davidson garage on a custom-designed Boeing 727. So here's the floor plan, in case you think I'm making it up, showing it there in the lower right-hand side. Incidentally, Malcolm Forbes went on to have a giant inflatable hot air balloon version of the Harley-Davidson, as well as a French chateau and an elephant, amongst other things. I don't think you'll want to hear a long list of requests, particularly that my father went through. And here we are in Istanbul, looping back to that film that my father took on that, or rather art directed on that shaky Super 8. He had connections in Turkey in the form of Turkish clients. So one of the first project, or the second project he did for a Turkish client was a 50-meter Bonetti, which he did for an industrialist called Mr. Dinchcock, built by Bonetti in Viareggio. She was launched in April 2002, and that was only a month, as it happened, before my father died. Bonetti made this plaque, which was rather a very nice thing of them to do, which still sits in our office. There is the almost final form of 50-meter multiple, made by, at that time, our in-house model maker in the studio, a guy in a white coat who used to make these models out of folded-out plastic card in a small room, smelling of glue and paint, probably in contravention of every single health and safety directive that existed. That's me, top right-hand corner, looking very young with Mr. Dinchcock. That was the launch, which my father couldn't attend, but an important Turkish connection. Slightly earlier than that was this 70-meter yacht, again for Turkish clients. Forgive my pronunciation here, Mr. and Mrs. Cingululu, I think. and the project, again, pronunciation might fail, Project Kugu, which I believe means swan. In the end, it wasn't, there's the design, it wasn't actually built, but I think, considering the year there, which I think I can see is 1996, I think actually one of the best looking yachts that came off my father's drawing board, but didn't actually see the light of day. Moving to the second Bannenberg era, which of course is shorthand for Bannenberg and Rowell. This was our first project in Turkey, in Tuzla, a few years ago. Dream On, built for a leading Istanbul shipping family. And it was our first encounter with, and in fact, I was delighted to meet him earlier today, Mr. Soyazlan and the Ulutaş team. Our first entry and experience of building in Turkey. Simon Rowell, who's the creative director of the company, drew up almost the entire interior by hand like this. Very little CAD work was done. I've got to say, looking at it, I think it's rather wistfully, I think it's a really nice way to present. And I think, you know, compared to the march of sort of your CAD deliverables and your 3D visuals, photorealistic visuals, I think it's actually a very successful way to present a project. Talking of photorealistic, Spitfire, which is a 50-meter project which we're doing with our friends in Ares in Antalya, based on their 100, I'm trying to remember the bold, the underlying platform we developed with Lateral Naval Architects, based on an existing and successful patrol boat hull. That's just in the mold right now and are due for delivery in 2 years' time. Interesting four-deck arrangement. That's a sort of semi-open, semi-enclosed hot tub, lounging area just forward of the owner's cabin, which can be fully shaded or fully in the open, open to sunlight through a system of louvers which are on the foredeck above. There is the what we call the fun store. One of the things we did on this boat was completely throw out conventional naming protocols. So we've got spaces like the ready room, the wardroom, and the buddy quarters on this boat. Forgive me, this brief diversion back into Bannenberg Era 1. You'll see why I'm doing it in a second. This was the Heron 21 designed, I should think, in the mid-1970s for Gerald Ronson, who was my father's most prolific and loyal client. So in those days, you could buy the Heron 21, not like the Model T Ford, so in any color other than black. You could get it in those four ranges. So we took some inspiration from that for Spitfire, and you can have it in, I don't know if anyone from Iris is here to disagree with me, but you can have it in any shade of those three to complement the Spitfire marine heritage. Moving further north in your country, we have a collaboration with Turquoise, put together and marriage made by your previous speaker, Alex G. Clark from Denison. So the bride and groom are doing well and are happy together. Alex is still on the scene. 65 meter above and 80 meter beyond, two semi-explorer, very purposeful looking concepts. One of the things, special request here from Alex in particular, was for this elevating crow's nest platform, rising up and down, which I think is a good feature. We'll race him to see who puts the patent on it first. Little film here, just showing, don't worry, it's only 10 seconds long, just spinning the boat round. But for the mother of unusual requests, we're going to turn back to 2021, or 4 prime ministers ago, as we say in England. You'll all recognize Prime Minister Johnson, who, correct me if I'm wrong, I think had a Turkish grandfather. Is that right? I think that's correct. Anyway, it was his initiative, as you can read there. I'm not going to do a Boris Johnson voice, to design and build a national flagship, not to be confused with a royal yacht. It was a national flagship whose role was to be ambassadorial, a trade platform, a humanitarian platform. So this involved putting together a lot of consortia. We were one. We hooked up with a leading British technical consultancy called Holder, who knew their way around the Ministry of Defence and Whitehall. My father inevitably had been there first, many years before, when it was a royal yacht, here exchanging friendly letters with Tony Blair on the left, and slightly icier letters with the private secretary to the Duke of Edinburgh. I've saved you a bit of work here by helpfully distilling many of the special requests which were drawn up by the Ministry of Defence which had to meet. So you could pick any of these as 140-litre barrels of beer, meeting Procedure Alpha, which was manning and cheer ship, which is explained here how you do it. The crew will remove their caps, hold them fully extended in their right arms, and on command cheer, hooray, at the same time circling their caps 3 times. You had to allow music and instruments for the Royal Marines Band. You had to, there was a minimum number of toilet numbers required, a bugler. So it was completely full of special requests. And one of the things which was quite interesting, and you can just see it halfway up the slide on the left, the whole process was scored. I can't remember what the total thing was, out of 1,000 points or something. But you got points for various things here, being able to fit in every additional delegate. You got points for sustainability. You got points for social leveling. Quite how you demonstrate that in a yachting environment or a shipbuilding environment was not clear. But it was quite interesting. And just as an aside, having gone through many of these sort of pitches and beauty parades with brokers, it would be quite an interesting thing to transfer into the yacht industry and the pitching process if things were kind of scored more carefully and more transparently, instead of it just being a sort of vague thing about chemistry or whether somebody liked you or took a dislike to the color orange. There's a little film here which we prepared. We made it through in the end to the final 2 consortia for the Ministry of Defence before the project was cancelled. Inevitably, really, you could pick anything from any of the headwinds that were around at that time, the war beginning in Ukraine, underpaid nurses in the UK, economic headwinds. It was a miracle it got that far, really. But what we do have is a wonderful flagship design for anyone who wants to buy one for us, either individually or for a state, I guess. We'll move on. That was our sort of final visual. I remember there was lots of agonizing about which courtesy flag to show. You had to pick that carefully, thinking what was the state of global relationships with the UK and different countries. So we went through a few there before. I think we alighted on India there in the end. Type 45 destroyer there. I think all the Type 45 destroyers in the UK are confined to port because their engines don't work in warm waters. But there you go. It's a reflection on Ministry of Defence procurement. Okay, moving away from naval things, going back to special requests. Here's the thing. This, of course, as you'll recognize, is a convertible craps table. We've got our signal back, guys. There we go. So there it is in sculpture form in this project we're doing at the moment. The client got a thing for sort of slightly bond-related things. So there it is in sculpture form. And there it is in craps table form. Got to say that carefully. So in a couple of years, when this project is finished, we'll be looking forward, or maybe not, looking forward to playing the client at craps, if anyone knows the rules of that. But just an example of one of those, particular, and some might say just, semi-mad requests that one does in yachting. I thought I'd move you to our latest project just to finish off. This is Valor, which is a 79.5 meter fed ship just delivered very recently. She appeared at the Monaco show. I think I saw in Boat International someone saying the picture, the interiors were notoriously secret. I'll show you a couple of ones and risk my life here. Here she is, this was 2 weeks ago. I was on board transiting Tower Bridge, moving upriver from Canary Wharf through Tower Bridge. There's a nice little sort of yachting scene arranged over the helideck, foredeck. There are, 12 custom-designed titanium and leather Lindley director's chairs, which the owner and his friends arranged, and just watched the river go by. It's good if you can do it. Interior, again, any number of special requests, ranging from incorporating the owner's Macintosh audio-visual units, most of which needed a shore power supply of their own, massive kind of things, and then custom-designed furniture, including, you can see one right here, sliced macadamia nuts, of course, which of course led to very frequent discussions about how my nut's getting on. But there's a quick view of the interior. The staircase had 40,000 components in it, in bronze, glass, and stone. Another view of the Macintosh Hi-Fi. Over on the right-hand side, talking of special requests, is the owner's dog washing station for his 3 golden retrievers, which I'm sure you'll agree is necessary. Dark Emperador marble goes nicely with golden retriever fur, I reckon. So just a good example. And if one needed it, a reminder for all of us that what we're doing here is building somebody's dream. There are the clients. Just as we're approaching Tower Bridge, we're taking all of these requests and these wishes and using imagination to pull all of them together so that over a 4-year period, you're getting to this end result. I'm going to give the final word, which is usually the case to Bannenberg Senior.
I mean, you don't impose things on people. You try and interpret what they want and do it as best you can and hope it doesn't fall apart.
There you go. There's the secret. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dickie. That was fantastic. And it's well-earned coffee break time, guys, so we'll see you back here in half an hour. Thanks so much for this morning.